Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. This series, I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn Kita. That's you.
You're keeping that in. Dorkus and I are sharing our experience reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Each episode we will summarize what we've read and discuss the experience along the way.
This is Storming the Archives, The Way of Kings, and today we discuss Chapter 46.
Chapter 46.
Chapter 46, Child of Tanavast. Kaladin dreams he is the storm. He travels over Roshar seeing many wondrous sights. A light at the center of the shattered plain suggests that someone lives there. As he continues to travel, he notes there are many armies all over the place, more so in the east rather than the west. Nevertheless, he laments that peace seems a scarce commodity in the world. He investigates a series of strange flashes of light. They come from a building at the central peak of a triangular city. He must work quickly. He knows he cannot retreat, only moving westward. He enters into a hallway of mosaic murals. Kaladin manages only a brief glimpse of a man with a pale shaved head, white clothes, and shin eyes standing over two corpses. The man looks up, almost seeming to see Kaladin. Kaladin continues past more cities, mountains, and more, until he gets to the Western Ocean. A voice shocks Kaladin, saying things he does not understand.
Child of Tanavast, child of honor, child of one long since departed. The oath pact was shattered. Men ride the storms no longer. The oath pact is broken, child of honor. Odium comes, most dangerous of all the 16. You will now go. Odium reigns.
Kaladin wakes from the dream. He thinks he's under attack. The bridge crew tries to hold him down. He had tried to go out in the storm. Moash insults Gaz for giving them dun spheres again. The crew lines up to be shaved, including Kaladin, who asks for a clean shave. Sigzil compliments Kaladin's features, says he has a leader's face. Noting how much Kaladin hates Light Eyes, Sigzil asks if he'd cast them down and replace them. Kaladin would not. He's happy to punish them, but not join them. Moash claims he'd replace them and make them work the mines, fields, and bridge crews. Sigzil educates the two of them on a place called Babatharnum. There, the oldest person rules. Moash thinks this sounds fair, but Sigzil explains how the reigning dynasty kills anyone old enough to challenge them. He brings this up to explain that abuses and corruption occurs regardless of system. Moash explains how he enlisted in the hopes of getting a shard blade. He thought they'd make him a soldier. Instead, he was made a bridgeman. Rock approaches. He calls Sigzil a world singer, nomads who travel, telling of other places. This upsets Sigzil, who storms off. The crew's expecting new bridgemen that day. Kaladin wants more bridgemen, but expects them to be given none. The crew is surprised, concerned, and dismayed, to say the least, that Hashal has assigned their crew a parshman. Kaladin reminds himself to turn a liability into an advantage. He names the Parshendi Shen. Syl looks at Shen sadly. Kaladin is tempted to use him as arrow fodder, but refuses to do so. He wants to end the abuse of power. Shen is one of them now. Teft is uniquely distrustful of Shen. Kaladin goes for a walk. He tries to think of a solution to the many problems with his escape plan. Syl feels this escape plan will be different than prior ones. Cal feels the Almighty hates him. Syl is uncertain if the Almighty exists, though she feels she should know. She points out that if Kaladin doesn't believe in the Almighty, he can't also believe the Almighty hates him. Cal asks if she knows who, or what, Odium is, to which Syl hisses viscerally and flies far away. A group of Sadius' soldiers harass a prostitute. Kaladin rushes to help, but someone else gets there first. A light-eyed soldier in blue who summons a shard blade. The group of soldiers leave. The prostitute thanks the shard bearer and offers to service him for free. The soldier responds that the offer is tempting, but his father would kill him. He has a thing about the old ways. He calls out to the bridge boy, Kaladin, to send word to Bright Lord Rarel Makaram that Adolin Kolin will not be making their meeting, then tosses him a sphere. Kaladin heads back to the lumber camp with no intention to do as Adolin ordered. Syl is frightened by the darkness in Kaladin when he talks of Light Eyes. He stops being himself when he does so. Even though the Light Eyes had stepped up to help, Kaladin attributes a negative intention to the act and leaves it at that. A question before we get into the epigraph for this chapter.
Okay.
Because we came off the end of a blind last week, which means we've had the week to sit with what we got. Do you have any elevator or refrigerator thoughts or questions or observations?
No, I've got freezer thoughts, which means there's absolutely nothing. It's done. There's nothing in there.
Okay, interesting.
Hmm.
My first elevator question, observation, thought, did Shalon make it look like she tried to unalive herself, or did she make it look like she slipped on accident and hurt herself? What did I miss there?
I think she was just trying to make sure that she was injured enough for that blood, and then she's going to try and give an explanation. So I don't see it's either way. She could try to say she what do you call it, fell, and the vase, however it was, the not the vase, the jug, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
cut her. Or I think it would be it would probably be a little bit more believable if she said she tried to unalive herself.
Yeah. So,
It would be a lot more believable.
possibly. Are soulcasters dark magic? Because that Shadesmar seemed pretty dark to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they act like it's the ardent and whatever, they're allowed to use what's the name, shade casters, huh? You see, soul casters. So they might not consider it dark magic, but maybe it is.
Yeah.
It might not be from the Almighty.
Yeah. Because I got big evil vibes from that whole experience.
From that whole experience as well, I'm like, is the soul caster itself like like sentient? Because it's like, you want me to change, I will change. So it's like, does every soul caster have a
An AI.
being? Yeah, like, yeah, a being attached to it, an AI or something that does these things, and you feed it with the gem.
Yeah. Do they all does everyone who uses a soulcaster have to attune to the AI?
Mm-hmm.
And
Or is it one that they all talk to?
or is it one that they all talk to? Is it,
Hmm.
I say AI humorously, but whatever it is it the soulcaster or is it a being that has its own agenda?
Yeah. What does this didn't doesn't it did talk about feeding, right? So you do have to give it something. So yeah, I don't know if it had its own agenda. I think it would have achieved it by now.
Yeah.
Mm.
Who knows? Maybe it corrupts people that uses it or something. If well, I don't know.
If it wants to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm more confused
Yeah.
than, yeah. So nothing new.
Yep. Okay, to the epigraph, and I'll preface the rest of this chapter with my notes are really scattered because I
Mhm.
read the whole chapter, then I wrote a bunch of questions, and then I wrote several notes after that chronologically, so things are a bit weird for me. But to the epigraph.
Mhm.
Though I was due for dinner in Vedin City that night, I insisted upon visiting Kolinar to speak with Tivbet. The tariffs through Urithiru were growing quite unreasonable. By then, the so-called Radiants had already begun to show their true nature. Following the firing of the original Palanaeum, only one page of Turksum's autobiography remained, and this is the only line of any use to me.
Hmm. This is the only line. That's more than one line, but okay. By then, the so-called Radiants, what I think is by then the so-called Radiants had already begun to show their true nature. What are they making tariffs?
Yeah.
Is that it?
I totally zoned out for whatever it was you said, but I'm gonna assume it's brilliant.
Okay.
I zoned out because I had a thought of my own. Please restate the thought.
Basically, the thing that I was saying was first of all, because it says this is the only line that is of any use to me. There's more than one line, but I suppose whatever. It's she's not saying sentences. The only sentence. The thing that really sticks out to me here is by then the so-called radiants had already begun to show us their true nature. So what does and that comes straight after this person says that there are tariffs through Eurytheru. So is this person saying the Radiants put tariffs through Eurytheru? That was
Uh,
what I got to.
yeah, it could be something like that. If nothing else, it's
Mhm.
when the Radiance seemed to start to betray people, and obviously
Mhm.
tariffs are trade war tactics, which suggests a disharmony occurring
Mhm.
in the state of relations between nations.
So what was your thought?
When I had read that, and I was contemplating the location of Eurytheru,
Mhm.
I wondered, are the Shattered Plains Eurytheru? Which is in line with what Shalon was asking, which in the last chapter, which Yasna essentially declined. She had asked if it was Natanaten, and Yasna said no. And I believe it caused me to go back to Dalinar's vision, and Dalinar believes that, or says that, the Shattered Plains are what become of Natanaten. And
Mhm.
but then he had another thought that I forgot about, or must have forgotten about, that Eurytheru became Alethkar. So,
Alright. Okay.
and then, so I guess Kholinar is the capital of Alethkar,
Yeah.
right? So, I,
So that actually is yeah, the tariffs through Eurytheru. I insisted upon going to Kolinar to speak with Tivbet, so the person who's going to Kolinar, and the tariffs through Eurytheru were growing. So you could either be going through Eurytheru to get to Kolinar.
mhm,
They are not the same thing.
right.
Is Eurytheru the country, and then Kolinar is a city in Eurytheru? I don't know.
Well, again, from that vision, Eurytheru is the base, the home base for the Knights Radiant, I think.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's it. We're connecting the Radiants have begun to show their true nature, because so they're obviously in control of it. This is like a one fragment of when the Radiants were around. God
Yeah.
damn.
And then we get into the chapter, correct?
Mhm.
What a great chapter. Shall we start with all of the things that Kaladin sees in his dream?
Sure. A lot of him, yeah. It actually went on for quite a while.
Yeah, I wrote them
Um,
down.
yeah. I would call it a vision. Like, okay, I know the dream is a vision, same thing, but he is going through the same thing that Dalinar is going through. He has to be held down. Okay, he's not having a fit or whatever, but the thing is, he's kind of out of it and needs to be held down. So I'm wondering if it's the same sort of affliction.
I agree. I think it's very similar, if not the same.
Yeah, because it's during a storm as well.
Yeah, and I'm guessing whatever it is that spoke to him is probably the same being that's speaking to Dalinar.
Yeah.
I also want to point out a distinction here. The first line of the chapter is he dreamed he was the storm, or he was the storm. But then in the next line, he raged forward the storm wall behind him. So the storm, that makes a distinction between the storm wall and the storm, unless
hmm
Kaladin is mistaken in thinking he's the storm.
No, I think it's just a different part of the storm. So the storm wall
Okay,
is behind him. But it's still part of the storm.
that's
We've had descriptions earlier on in the book of what a storm wall itself was, but I am not clear on it.
sounds good. Okay, so sights in the dream, more or less in
hmm
order. The ocean, continent, the shattered plains, which looks like it's been hit by a nuke. There is a
hmm
pattern that he observes there, yeah?
Yeah, it's like something has impacted. Yeah.
And then the very important thing to note, that Sanderson clearly put in as a point for us to pay attention to. There's a light at the center. Someone lives there. And
Which makes me go, we're gonna encounter them.
yes, we're definitely going to find out.
Hmm.
The big question I had was, is it a herald? Is it a parshman? Is it or a parshendi? Or is it
Hmm.
a person, like a non-parshendi person?
It would have to be a large enough light. So it might be a group of people. So it would be Parshendi, I would expect.
Gotcha. See, I imagined it was, I imagined it was one of those options,
Hmm.
but I did think it was a singular person, like someone.
Hmm.
I imagined like an old wizard kind of a deal.
Yeah, I guess you could say that we can't. It's such a weird vision that yes, we're very high above, right? So you could see a lot. So if you're very high above, so you can see the whole pattern of the shattered plains, then I would expect for you to be able to see the light, it would have to be quite a large one. But
Yeah,
then again, it's also a vision, so it could zoom in for you.
yeah. Sea of Spears, Alethkar, Horneater Peaks, many cities at all, many armies, and throughout this dream vision, Kaladin laments that there aren't more places living in peace in the world on Roshar.
Yeah, it's not just the shattered plains. There's armies everywhere. There's war everywhere.
Yes, which speaks to Kaladin's heart, again wanting
Mhm.
peace.
Mhm.
So many cities, many armies, a city and landscape with dark-skinned folk like Sigzil,
Mhm.
blue-veined people. So both of those obviously play a point later on in this specific chapter, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A place where stormwater spurts out of the ground, a place with homes carved from stalactites. I thought that was really cool. That seems
Yeah. That
I
was a cool thing to envision.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would love to see that. I hope they visit that
Mhm.
place. Flashes of light, a triangular patterned city lights in a building on the central peak. So when I heard triangular patterned city, I went back and looked at the somatics chapter, specifically the artwork of the
Mhm.
somatics, and there was and Kolinar sort of looks like a triangle, but earlier on in the chapter it specifies that he is already past Kolinar, so this city is definitely not that city.
Okay.
So we can wipe that out off of the possibilities list.
Mhm.
He zooms in to the place with the flashing lights in the triangular pattern city. In the building on the central peak, he enters into a long hall with red tiles, mosaic murals, and golden haired servants. And there he sees. Is it fair we call him Seth or Zeth?
Yeah. That's what I would think. It is Zeth. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the first thing that I thought.
Yeah, me too. And there are a handful of observations that need to be addressed. The first being Zeth seems to see Kaladin.
Mhm.
Am I correct in placing importance upon that one specific passage that it seems as if he sees him?
Yeah, we do need to it's something to note. Definitely. Like there is the seeming to, so we don't know if he does see him, but he senses him in some way.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I think that is factual. I think Zeth
Mhm.
does sense Kaladin. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How Zeth perceives Kaladin, I don't know. Maybe he sees a spren or something.
Yeah, unless he actually sees Kaladin's distinct face, but
Yeah.
like, just as a ghostly looking thing, so that he recognizes him at a later stage when he sees him.
Yeah. I
Mm.
wonder if it's connected to the fact that they can both use the same sort of storm sorcery surge binding magic thing.
Yeah.
The other important thing to note is that he's wearing white. And the reason that's important is because we know wearing white to be a Parshendi tradition. We know that Zeth made a name for himself by being the assassin in white. So
Mhm.
there are two potential lines of thought on the matter. Three potential lines of thought, actually. One, is Zeth working for the Parshendi? again?
Mhm.
2, if not, why are his employers insisting that he wear white? Is it because of his reputation as being the assassin in white? Meaning,
Yeah, they want him to continue that. Yeah.
I'm questioning their motives. 3, if he's not working for the Parshendi this time around, does that mean that he may not have been before as well? Maybe Zeth was tricked into thinking he was working for the Parshendi before? What were the circumstances of his being hired in the first place? We know the Parshendi didn't deny credit for doing the thing. So,
Mm.
so many
And
questions.
we're assuming that the Parshendi are just one uniform thing. There could be some faction within the Parshendi that ordered it, whereas the rest of them were, we don't know their politics at all. But the rest of them maybe were happy with the treaty, and then others were like, no, this is what we got to do. We got to kill him. So
Yeah.
we don't know any of that. So many questions.
Yeah. So then he passes some more cities, some more mountains. He gets to the Western Ocean, and then he hears the voice.
Hmm.
And the voice says, "Child of Tanavast, child of honor." So, Tanavast, are we presuming this is a herald?
Yeah, it sounds heraldy, but I'm like, I don't. All of these names sound like brr, brr, brr to me in my head because they're just. I've not become familiar with them yet. So when I hear Tenevast, I'm like, that sounds heraldy, but I don't know.
Yeah. So, my big supposition right now is that maybe Kaladin is a descendant of one of the heralds.
Hmm.
But there's an asterisk there because presuming it is a herald, child of one long since departed, and that's why I think it's a herald. That means that the
Hmm.
heralds that stayed are dead,
Hmm.
and that's noteworthy.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of them, except maybe the one that was killed, are going to be coming around anytime soon.
I think the way that also the fact that it says child of Tanavas, child of honor, it seems like the heralds are all aligned with certain qualities.
Mm,
If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if I've imagined that, but child of honor. So would Tanavas be the herald of honor? That's what I was thinking.
right. Like herald of honor, herald of
Mhm,
leadership, herald of
mhm,
compassion, herald of kind of a
mhm.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
So when it goes Tanavas honor, that's what I think.
Yeah. The oath pact was shattered. Okay, that's good information to pass on to people who may not know that and need to.
Mhm. Yeah, because that means that the heralds, well, I guess they know the heralds are not there anymore. I don't know.
Something like that.
Do men ride the storms no longer? That was a thing that they could do, I suppose.
I think that's what Kaladin is doing right now.
Mhm. Yeah, and what Dalinar does as well.
Yeah. The oath pact is broken, child of honor. Odium comes. So, y-
And it says the most dangerous of all the 16.
yeah. So here's where a thing is kind of wonky for me is I had supposed that Odium may have been a herald as well, except if he was, Kaladin would might know because versions of the herald's names are still known even if they're off slightly.
Mhm.
But also, most dangerous of all the 16, I don't think there were 16 heralds. I believe there were 10,
No, it's
right?
10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I ruled out. I do not think Odium is
a herald.
a herald. I did wonder after that if he was maybe a leader of the Radiance. Maybe there were
Mm.
16 leaders of or something like that. But
But considering Soul's reaction and most dangerous of all the 16, I'm what that made me think of, like, there's actually names of Voidbringers. Voidbringers are like
ooh,
demons, and
that's
you can
right.
demon.
Because we did in the last chapter talk about specific devil void bringers with names and that are Cthulhu like beasts with domains and what have you. Yeah.
Mhm. And just considering Syl's reaction to that versus look, she could it still makes sense. She could still react like that to a radiant, but it makes way more sense if she's scared of a demon, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. And then he wakes up and like Dalinar, he was moving
Oh, hold on,
around.
hold on.
What?
It's Odium comes, and then at the end of the storm, or when he's like out of the storm, the last thing the storm says is Odium reigns. So it's like it's not about coming. It's like, oh, he's reigning now. He's
Hmm.
great. So he's busy doing stuff. That's awesome. So
Yes.
once we know what Odium means itself as well, might help because considering okay, so we're kind of leaning towards him being a void bringer. So there's kind of void bringers of like, like, oh, this is strife and this is
Yeah.
anger and whatever. So if we could figure out what that means, it would make sense that something like that reigns. Odium might be war, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously there's a lot of war going on, so if Odium is
Mm,
reigning, that's war
makes sense.
run
Yeah,
rampant
and that's
across
why
the
he's
world.
yeah. And Kaladin previously, before that answer, he said, why must we always be fighting? And the answer essentially is Odium reigns. So seems like that makes sense to me.
Yeah. At some point in this chapter, and I'm going to bring this up now because I don't remember specifically where, but I think it was early on.
Hmm.
Kaladin is worried that Syl might leave him. And it's not the first time that he's had this worry before. And I that it exacerbates my worry toward the end of the chapter when Syl is like, I don't like you having these dark thoughts about the Light Eyes. Because I feel like if he goes too far down the vengeance path that
Hmm.
he feels, it might lose him the privilege of whatever powers and special nature it is that he has. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I see that, but I'm actually trying to think. The way that it was said is kind of like this fear. He says he always there actually is this fear is a constant fear. And the way he phrased it was like when she does this, when she goes away, that's what he feels. I'm trying to just find it. Yeah.
Sigzil says, your face has strong lines, square and firm, with a proud chin. We would call it a leader's face among my people. I'm no Light Eyes. You hate them so much. I hate their lies. I hate it that I used to believe they were honorable. And you would cast them down? Rule in their place? No. This seemed to surprise Sigzil. To the side, Syl finally appeared, having finished frolicking in the winds of the high storm. He always worried, just a little, that she'd ride away with them and leave him.
Mm. Yeah, so that's what I mean. The always he has always worried that she's just one day not going to come. I mean, that's how she appeared. She just appeared, and then what's to say that she won't just one day disappear without any warning?
Yeah,
But yeah, she could leave him. She could leave him on purpose because she doesn't find him worthy anymore.
yeah. He should totally talk to her about it. But also, the reason I read that whole portion there is
Mhm.
because I think she shows up because of the topic that is being asked. And
Mhm.
again, that plays into the specialness of Kaladin and
Mhm.
his soul. And why Syl chooses to spend her time with him. There's a lot of, I think,
We also
really,
yeah.
really subtle indications here regarding whether or not Kaladin will continue to choose to be that good soul or not.
Mhm. We also you can also think of Syl as this like Jiminy Cricket guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This sort of conscience. So she can leave, but she is also a source of light for him. So I'm glad that he is scared of her leaving. He should want to keep her around
Yeah.
and please her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, they all line up to get shaved and they have a nice little time with that. And with regard to the casting them down idea, this chapter is all about abuses of power and how it doesn't really matter what system of government, the powerful will find ways to abuse their power for whatever reason they can manage. And Kaladin has no interest in ruling. He wants to he's happy to punish them, the powerful, for doing it, but he doesn't want to take their place. And Moash comes in and he's like, I have no problem making the Light Eyes do what they've done to me. and,
Mhm.
and we learn something this chapter about Moash that I think is so tragic.
Yeah.
It made me viscerally angry this week. Moash enlisted. He enlisted to be a soldier. I mean, he has that semi-foolish hope of winning a shard blade, which I don't think would ever pan out for him. And it'll be awkward when and if Kaladin gets his shard blade, and Moash is just standing there being like, shit, that's
Mhm.
not going to happen
Mhm.
again to me, is it?
Yeah, statistically, nah.
Yeah. But even though he enlisted, they made him a bridgeman. And I am so
Yeah.
like, he must be shit with the spear if they didn't.
Well, they didn't yeah, they didn't they I don't know if they even tried. Maybe he also misbehaved and got thrown into bridge. You don't know. So,
Yeah,
it's like he's saying they assigned him as a bridgeman, but he could have found his way as a punishment in, as a
but that's a death sentence. That goes way beyond
but yeah,
punishment in my
and
estimation.
they could have also yeah, but they also could have gone, "Ugh, he's not really worth training, so there we go, just put him out."
Yeah,
They didn't even train him. They didn't even put him in training. He that's how bad it can be, that you can come and volunteer, and if they think, "Eh, you're not that much of an asset," then like they place the slaves. They're just like, "Oh, well." So when you go and enlist, you become basically you're at the mercy of the army.
yeah,
So yeah, that is quite a tragic fact to hold in mind.
yeah, yeah. When you enlist, you're not a person anymore. You
Mhm.
belong to the army.
Yeah. They'll use you as they see fit, including as cannon fodder, essentially.
Yep. And then Sigzil tries to educate Kaladin about abuses of power, and by talking about a place called Babatharnum, where the oldest
Mhm.
gets to reign. And Rock comes up and he calls Sigzil a world singer, which for some reason upsets Sigzil. And I couldn't quite tell if it's because Rock inadvertently said something offensive to his people, or if that Sigzil just like has his own personal baggage, like maybe not unlike Teft, like maybe he was cast out from the world singers or something.
Yeah. Yeah, or he could have been a world singer, but he rejected it.
Hmm.
And there's I thought it was a baggage thing. It could easily be, and like his people are completely different, okay? And how dare you call them that? But my initial thought was it's baggage related.
Yeah. Same. So then the Gaz comes in with a bunch of new recruits, and I have this weird set of things yet again. One, I don't think they should want new recruits
Mhm.
because of their secret, which a couple
Mhm.
times in this chapter it's highlighted how much they need to keep this a secret. And I feel like introducing anyone new into the crew risks that secret.
Exactly.
So it was a little weird for me to have Kaladin go up to Gaz saying, "Hey, we need new people." Especially
Well, it's yeah. He's being a bit foolhardy with that notion.
but
But
then
I guess he want they're also they're weakened. They have some wounded men.
yeah. So I guess that would just be another problem they need to solve. But the thing is, Kaladin uses that exact logic, uses the secret as justification for why he's upset that they get Shen into the bridge crew. And so there's sort
Mm.
of a weird conflicting thing there for me personally that I'm trying to reconcile.
Yeah, he's definitely perceiving it differently, as if it wouldn't be a problem that a human having a new human involved is also a liability. I don't. It actually might be that having a parchment is better.
Yeah.
They're a lot. They're not going to go and, like he says, not going to go and talk about it and everything. But yeah, if you had your own bridgeman, you're just assuming that they're not going to. They're going to be all honorable, and you're just going to be lucky that way. Uh, Either way, we don't have to deal with that problem because we only got Shen.
Yes. And yay, we get a new mascot, Shen.
Well, we get. It would be interesting for him to be as intelligent as a Parshendi and like opening up, and all you had to do is just care about him.
Well, it's funny that you say that
Mhm.
because of a couple of things. We got in a previous chapter knowledge that the Parshendi looked at the Parshman and said something to the effect of what happened to their music or something like that, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Which had me wondering this week, do the Parshendi sing silently to each other? Does the
Mhm.
music trigger the visions? And then I wrote in all caps, sing to the mascot. So I'm wondering if, like, the Parshmen were cursed to live without their music, and I'm wondering if there's going to be a way to replace that. And whatever
Mm.
secret occurred there, whatever music it is that they're lacking, Syl knows what it is, but she might not know that she knows, because there is a specific line in this
Yes.
chapter. Syl looks at Shen sadly. What does she know?
Mm. She doesn't know what she doesn't know, but she's like, "I know something." Like, it is a great kind of character to have that some might find it too simple that, "Oh, suddenly Syl knows," but it's like it's part of her deeper mystery that we will eventually find out why she knows these things, and it will all make sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anything you want to say about Shen before we move on?
Yeah, I expect him to he could be a connection when they run out, when they go and
They could run to the
escape.
Parshendi.
Yeah, that no that they can somehow that having him there makes a difference. So I don't know.
Yeah. I
We'll see.
mean,
And just another thing, yeah, he doesn't have armor or anything like that. Yeah, he hasn't grown that. So it could be like he's like an they're unevolved versions. There's something that you have to do, or like a curse, like you said, that you would have to break for them to become this evolved version into Parshendi.
yeah.
So, like, I'm not convinced that they're just completely separate and they stay separate forever.
Yeah.
So
No, I
this book is so complex. My God.
very much so. And yeah, with the Parshman Parshendi thing, I think there's something similar going on to the Elantrians in Elantris,
Mm,
if that makes sense. Something happened
yeah,
to a
some
bunch,
transformation.
yeah, that
Mm,
cut them off from the door, the music, whatever it may
mm,
be.
yeah.
And
I did want to ask. Yeah.
that's what lobotomized them. Go on.
Mm. You said the singing causes the visions.
It was just a question I had. I
Mhm.
wondered because there's so much world singers, most important words a man can say. Clearly, there is power in word and song in this world. It seems to me.
Okay, so that's what made you consider it. Okay, so
Yeah,
because I was like, there was nothing that I read that made that connection yet.
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it was just a fanciful thought.
Mhm.
So then Kaladin goes and takes a walk because walking helps him think. He has a really wonderful little passage about how it's something his father used to do. The older he gets, the more he realizes he's like his father in many ways, which I found endearing. And he sees a prostitute get beaten. And
Mhm.
at that point, I wondered to myself, if Kaladin is Jesus, have we found our Mary Magdalene?
It makes sense. I don't know. Does she feature again, or is she just a means to an end for
He
this
walk
interaction? Yeah.
he walks off without any interaction with her, so I don't expect
Mm.
she will be recurring.
Mhm. But it was a fancy, fun thought.
Yes. And then we get Adolin.
Mhm. That is our paths crossing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the sword. Shardblade.
Yes. And Adolin does a good thing. He
Mhm.
saves the prostitute from a beating.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, the prostitute, isn't it she the one that has, weird skin? Veins or something like that?
Did she? I didn't. I don't
Why why
remember.
why did you say that the skin was something that we need to keep in mind for this chapter?
Because it came up when Sigzil was discussing Baba Tharnum.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit, okay. Never mind.
That. But then he calls Kaladin a bridge boy, gives him a sphere, and says, "Go do this chore for me." Adolin
And this yeah.
is woefully ignorant of how terrible the bridgemen are treated.
Hmm. But he's thoughtless. He's just done something very heroic, but at the same time, you're like, "Ooh, that's icky." And he just throws him a it's funny that he throws him this sphere that is how many? Sorry,
A couple weeks worth, I think.
yeah.
Well,
So, but that's pretty good because they need supplies for the wounded.
that's
He
very
doesn't have anything to sell,
that is
but,
very
um,
true.
he's not gonna do the chore though. So, essentially, if he doesn't do it and he gets a tip, what is it then stealing? Could he get in trouble for that?
I doubt Adolin will care. But
Mhm.
what I meant was, I don't have a problem with Adolin ordering a bridgeman about. That's,
Mhm.
army hierarchy.
Mhm.
But what I'm saying is, I feel like Adolin would care more about the
Mhm.
bridgemen if he knew specifically how Sadius treated them. So I don't think
Mhm.
he would be quite as callous isn't the right word, but it feels tone deaf knowing what
Mhm.
Kaladin has been through.
Yeah. True. And I guess also sending he knows he's a bridge boy though.
Yeah.
And would a bridgeman be able to go and talk to somebody who's in 6th Battalion,
I
tell him
doubt
that
it.
Adolin Colin yeah, but I guess messengers are also not exactly considered very high up anyway. But, also what is he doing in Sadius's camp?
I want to know. I do not
Like,
know.
what would he
Maybe
yeah.
he's coordinating. Well,
Mm,
maybe he's coordinating a joint plateau assault or something. I doubt it's that, but it's possible. It all depends on whether or not Dalinar maintained or remained in power.
mm.
Or
But we do have also the whole point so we do have that nonchalant sort of thing that makes him makes Adolin seem really but the thing is he did save the woman. And
yeah,
Kaladin is like, what was in it for him? Like, because
yeah,
it doesn't compute that this guy would save the prostitute. It's like, well, the soldiers have a certain way and whatever. So he's like, I'm not understanding. But he now knows that that's Adolin Colin.
he,
He will if he thinks about it a bit more.
yeah. No, he presumes ill intent to the heroic
Mhm.
action. And this brings up the question, has Kaladin earned this prejudice? Is it okay? Can we give Kaladin a pass for hating the Light Eyes? Because he clearly, viscerally hates the Light Eyes to the point where it makes Syl very, very uncomfortable. You're not you when you talk about them. And I'm reading that and
Mhm.
I'm thinking, am I making excuses for prejudice and racism? Because I kind of feel like Kaladin, if anyone has earned a right to hate people, it's Kaladin.
Mhm.
But at the same time, we know Adolin. But we also know that Adolin and Dalinar and Renarin are unique among his culture.
Mhm.
And racism bad,
Yeah. Well,
obviously.
he is of the oppressed class, so it's a lot easier to make those excuses and not, and to understand where he's at because he is still underneath their boot. So and he also remember the thing is he had this really high regard for them, and it
Hmm.
we still don't know what happened, but something monumental happened, and he lost all hope and trust in them. Like we've seen him in the younger flashbacks. We've seen him say, "Oh well, this light eyes is bad. The rest are good. I can't wait to get to good light eyes because these light eyes are crap." So he still has that in the flashbacks at least. He still has this idea that other light eyes can be honorable. He ruled those other guys as the exception, right? Then
Hmm.
obviously something changes, and he no longer looks at exceptions.
Yeah.
He doesn't consider any exceptions. He just considers them all bad. And his immediate thing, nobody called him a light eyes, but his immediate thing when somebody said, "Oh, you look like a leader," when Sigil said you look like a leader, he's like, "I'm no light eyes." Like already it yeah, so I don't think we're making excuses for his hatred. We understand it, but we're also saying we also aware that it could poison him. Just because he
Yeah.
is justified with this anger, it doesn't mean now that he should now go and hate absolutely every light eyes he comes across. He should be wary. He should expect them to behave in a certain way, but at the same time, that doesn't mean he must now always assume the worst of him. That's racism.
Right.
Yeah.
So he certainly doesn't need to extend them any degree of trust or faith.
Yeah, there's no benefit of the doubt here. Yeah.
Um, Let me ask you this question, Kitty. Do you feel it's okay? Do you feel forgiveness is something that you should do? Or do you think it's okay to not forgive people? Because I hear a lot of forgive and forget. I hear a lot of you should forgive people so you don't carry around that hatred in your heart. I hear a lot of
Mhm.
you don't forgive them, you forgive them for yourself. And those all sound they don't sound bad, but like I have people in my life who have done things to me or to people I love, and I don't forgive them. And it's not like I carry around hatred over it. I don't think about them at a
That's
certain
forgetting.
yeah, at a certain point I move on. I get on with my life and I focus on better things. But when I think
Mhm.
but if that person comes up or comes back into my life or something like that, I don't necessarily feel like I need to forgive them.
Mhm. There's the difference between yeah, forgiving and then just letting people just continue to treat you badly.
Mhm.
That shouldn't be what forgiveness is about. It's just, "Okay, it's fine. You can do whatever you want to me." Well, I guess that's why people shy away from forgiveness, because it's like that's not gonna help actually. Rather forget, as in, n don't obsess over it,
Mhm.
but stay away from that person. You're discerning that that person is not good for you, so you're staying away from them. And I would think forgiveness means that you allow that person to stay close to you. That's the difference between forgiving and forgetting, in my opinion. So, but it seems like forgetting is some sort of forgiveness as well. we could we could have a whole think about this.
We should do that. I think that
Yeah.
would be a great thing to do. Over on Kitte's
Mm.
channel, subscribe if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. Look, I think forgiveness should be something you have to earn. I don't think it
Yes,
should
you
be
should want it.
freely given, and I
Yeah.
don't necessarily think that forgiving you is about me. I think only I have the power to forgive my past self and show my
Mhm.
past self compassion for things that I now think are cringe. And that's obviously easier said than done, but I really want it feels like I'm saying something bad here, but I don't feel like I need to forgive every person that wrongs me in order for me to live a non-hate filled life.
Yeah, you just gotta live a non-hate filled life. So you can't obsess about the people that have wronged you. You've got to move on from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean you forgive them and let them into your life again.
Yeah. And it feels
Mhm.
like that's a hot take, and I'm not sure it should be or needs to be.
Well, it's a hot take because if you think about, say, the Bible, you should forgive.
Mm.
But a lot of the time, I'm like, forgiveness is for God, because I'm too angry. I'm too angry at so and so, whatever. That's But yeah, the default should be forgiveness if we're talking religiously. Yeah,
Mm.
like it's literally in the Lord's Prayer for Christians. So I don't know what Jewish people say about it, but yeah.
It's in
So
line.
maybe that's why it feels like a hot take because it's like, okay, well, conventionally forgiveness and honesty and things. It's like a forgive and forget is a
A
proverb or so whatever
mantra,
for us.
proverb. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that's why it feels like a hot take because it's like, you kind of deconstructed it though. So and it makes sense.
Yeah. And then he decides not to give the message and he goes off about his day and the chapter ends. I wrote eighth epoch question mark in my notes and I don't remember why.
I can't tell you why either. I was confused by it.
I think I was trying to math the ages
Mm,
in this world that we're familiar with and
uh,
how much they would know. Uh, I think Eighth Epoch was brought up in Dalinar's vision when he asked what year is it?
mm,
And then I think we
yes.
heard Epoch through Cabsal as well.
Mm,
But at this point we're too far in the book for me to easily go back and reference specific points like this. So just know that that's something that I thought about as I try to make sense of all of these terms and all
mm.
of these ages and all of these magics and all of these characters. It is a lot at this point. It
Mhm.
really,
It
really
is, it's
feels.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's the way the book knows or the book Brandon Sanderson knows that's the nature of this book, so repeating these hints and things like that will occur.
Hmm.
So sometimes we've noticed, "Oh, this is repeats or whatever," and I think it's necessary in a huge, long series to repeat certain lessons. Yes, you can pick up on them as they come out about for the first time, but repeating them is also necessary in an epic like this.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking of Wheel of Time and things like that, that like things that you know just from reading the book and rereading the books and rereading. But then, you know, there is repetition for new readers, I would say.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to keep track of. If there really is too much to keep track of. Like, honestly, I would have to have taken notes to keep the all the heralds in mind and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think also because of the way we're reading a lot slower. So maybe that's another thing. Because so we land up forgetting a lot quicker, if you know what I'm saying.
Y-
Forgetting happens in between chapters compared to if we were reading this over a couple weeks.
I agree with that
Yeah.
actually quite a lot.
Mm.
And I'm not quite sure
S
if there's anything that can be done to mitigate it, but
No.
I think also think it's fine. Sanderson does a really good job in this book of dropping
Mhm,
these names as if the
mhm,
characters in world more or less know what it
mhm.
is, and he doesn't go into exposition every time he brings it
Yeah.
up to remind us, which I actually
Mhm,
like quite a lot.
mhm,
The onus is now on me to remember.
mhm.
And the more they come up, the more it comes up, the more it'll sink in.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not every single time, which is cool.
Hmm.
Mm.
Anything else to say on this chapter?
On this chapter, well, at the end, he says that he's concluded that Adolin just wanted to humiliate one of Sadius's soldiers or some of his soldiers because there's tensions between the camps. So it's like we have not been to Dalinar and Sadius and all of them in a very long time. So I need to hear what's going on with them.
Yeah.
That's it.
Cool. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to that Donkita if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. Elevator comment on the forgiveness thing. I find myself thinking a part of me feels bad having like expressed that view, and a part of me feels bad believing that view. So it's something
Mhm.
I suppose I'm ambivalent on, and I want that to have been said. Have a great rest of your week, Kitty. Any comment to that last comment?
I don't think it's as bad as you think, but I understand the sentiment. You know what you should be striving for. You know there's a should involved here. And but yeah,
Cool.
ambivalent. Good.
Thank you. And we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, thanks, bye.